calling about a past due balance on your account. Episode 4. Here's hoping I don't get devoured. By JamFranz. I work for a special collections agency and I don't think our customers are human. Hi everyone, I'm sorry it's been a while. We're a bit short-staffed, so I've been working a lot. And then I was able to take some time off to see my family. As you may recall, I work in special collections, and I don't think our customers are human. Last time, I was wondering if I might be possessed after a call went very wrong due to some bad notes I was given. I've been doing okay. I've lost some hours where I think I just zoned out over the past few weeks, but I'm sure everything's fine, right? I've started working a bit later in the day, so I coincide with some of the night shift, which is comforting since I'm not working alone. I think I'm mostly getting the hang of things I've seen already, but it seems like there is always something new to learn. When I came in the other day, I saw a puzzle sitting out and I was so excited. We used to do puzzles all the time when I worked in normal collections upstairs, so it was nice to have a sense of familiarity. We used to all get together during lunch and work on it, so I figured I'd ask Pujam, who, when I walked in, was leaning so close to his screen that I could only see the bottom of his ponytail under the monitor. "Hey, do you want to work on the puzzle during lunch?" I asked excitedly. He looked up from his screen and put his glasses back on, raising an eyebrow at me in response. "Puzzle? We're not allowed to have puzzles down here. Not since the puzzle incident of 62. Oh, well, there's one in the break room." His eyes widened and he jumped up and darted around the corner before I could even finish my sentence. He came back with Sandy, our no-nonsense team leader, who is some sort of entity in the body of a middle-aged woman from Wisconsin with a penchant for blingy sweaters, and we all went to the break room together. The puzzle, which, according to the box, consisted of a nice scene of bouquets in a flower shop, was laid out, the border beginning to take shape. I felt myself drawn to it and was reaching out to pick up a piece before I even realized it. Luckily, Sandy slapped my hand away, shot me her signature, "I'm disappointed in you, look," and then shouted at it for a bit while shielding us with her arms, like the puzzle was going to try and attack us. It didn't. When she finished, it disappeared into thin air, leaving just a wisp of smoke behind, and what sounded like hundreds of tiny screams. Apparently, puzzles just show up around here every so often, but anyone who touches one disappears, never to be seen again. Sandy believes they are trapped somewhere between life and death in a cycle of eternal torment. I've got the words written down so I can banish a puzzle on my own now, if needed. I know it's been a while, but as you may remember, something weird has been going on where the notes I am being given have had dangerous errors. I've started having Pujam and Sandy look over the files I've been given before I make my calls, and I've been shadowing Sandy when it's safe and possible to do so. I really need to learn as much as possible to reduce my risk of having an accident like last time, or like poor Annie had. I trust them since they've both had the opportunity to either do nothing or intentionally sabotage me in the past. Instead, they've helped me multiple times. I haven't had any incidents since then. Sometimes the notes are fine, and sometimes they're wildly dangerous. For example, one pretty intense case I dealt with last week. Original notes. To reach the collector, stand in the left back corner of the sub-basement and burn one sprig of herbs. Present your business card to the collector and inform him you are here to collect payment on behalf of the Green Vista Group. After you receive the payment, they may present an item to you. To refuse this item is ill-advised. To exit, stand in the location in which you entered and burn the second sprig of herbs. Sandy's notes. Wear closed-toe shoes. To reach the collector, stand in the left back corner of the sub-basement and burn 1 sprig of herbs. Present your business card to the collector and inform him you are here to collect payment on behalf of the Green Vista Group. The collector does not pay intangible items. Do not bring any physical item from his world back with you. To exit, stand in the location in which you entered and burn the 2nd sprig of herbs. I was in our sub-basement 1 minute, and the next I was standing knee-deep in clear blue-green water. The collector was standing on a white sanded beach and appeared to me as an elderly man. Upon closer inspection, the beach had a shore made up of sun-bleached teeth, bone fragments, and little bits of other unsettling things that used to be inside of people. I'm fairly certain I saw a metal joint replacement in the mix, sun glinting off the rounded metal. He took the business card I presented to him, but held on to my wrist, studying it. "What a fascinating bone structure," he smiled at me with far too many teeth. While still holding my wrist, he stared at me deeply until I got a slight headache and these odd images began to float through my head. I couldn't really make out anything. It was like a dream that was already fading. I looked at him questioningly, worried I had done something incorrectly. "Someone will extract those for you," he smiled at me, but luckily without showing his teeth this time. I turned to head out the way I came in, but he was still holding on to me. "Young lady, for your trouble." He dug up something roundish and flat from the piles on the ground and indicated that he wanted me to open my hand. I did so reluctantly. It was made of metal and plastic and warm from being under the harsh sun. It had carving on the back, DDR, Pastronics. It took me a moment, but I then realized that I was holding someone's pacemaker. I went back to the water I had entered from and stood calf deep in it. I made as if I needed to tie my shoe, and once my hand was below the water, I gently let go so the pacemaker floated to the bottom. Once it touched the soft sandy shore, I lit the fragrant herbs. He stared at me as I did so, as if disappointed. And then I was back in the office, where it felt like I could finally breathe. I noticed I had a welt where he had held on to my wrist. When I went to deliver the messages, my boss just stared at me unblinkingly with the same intensity as the collector until the swirling concepts and images were gone. I had one moment where I think my mind made sense of something I had seen because I felt a sudden fleeting moment of terror. It was over so fast that I can't remember what I saw, only how I felt. We stared at each other for a long time. I think he knew I had seen something. I've never been great at hiding my emotions. That thought made me nervous for some reason. I was curious and later asked Sandy what happens if you do accept an item from the collector and take it home. She told me that by doing so, you allow him to come to our world and collect an item from you. Sometimes he asks for a trinket, sometimes days or years off your life. Sometimes he comes back for you yourself and you never get to leave. You're stuck there until your own bones and teeth become part of his beach. She added the note about the closed-toe shoes because one employee had been wearing sandals and accidentally brought a tooth back that had slipped into an opening in his shoes. When weeks and then months had passed without a visit, the entire office had been relieved, thinking that maybe unintentionally bringing back something didn't count. But nearly a year later, he came to retrieve her. Sandy smiled sadly, saying her co-worker had a weak heart and she hoped the collector was kind to her. I didn't tell her about the pacemaker he had tried to give me. So, anyways, most of my other customer encounters were pretty normal, and besides the file with the collector, Everything else was correct and accurate. Hello, customer is nameless. My name is, insert your first name, and I am calling on behalf of the Green Vista Group. If you are not able to make your minimum required payment today, your borrowed anchor to this time and space will be repossessed. Any attempts to transmute or disintegrate GVG employees will be met with swift and permanent banishment. Note: if black liquid begins to come out of the phone or the receiver, end call and destroy phone in its entirety. If customer offers to or begins to tell you how and when you will die, end call immediately. Employees tend to find this information disconcerting. Last time I mentioned I was thinking of calling the man in the mirror. I finally did it, but I made sure I wore a blazer and my most severe looking bun, so he knew this call was strictly business. The call didn't seem super helpful at the time. He seemed frantic and distracted. He was also upset that I waited so long to call. He said he had a warning for me, but a lot of what he told me made no sense and went over my head. I was thinking he may know if someone was sabotaging our notes, since I guessed he could see through any of our mirrors in the office. But instead he ignored my question and asked me if I knew that the time of Nathal, the Devourer, had begun. The name wasn't familiar from my notes, so I figured I'd ask Pooljam and Sandy the next day. So the part I'm still processing is when I went in and asked Pooljam if he knew an Nathal, the Devourer. He paled, looked over his shoulder, and pulled me aside, asking me where I'd heard that name. He didn't tell me the answer, but instead told me something along the lines of, we had plenty of time left, so I shouldn't worry. I couldn't help but notice that when he glanced around, his eyes lingered on my boss's office. I'm a bit concerned, so I'm going to try and meet up with him after work one day soon to get more details, since he seemed really hesitant to talk about it at work. I'll let you know what I find out, but I'm hoping I don't get devoured in the meantime. I just want to thank JamFranz for allowing me to narrate that story, part of a longer series. Make sure you go back and listen to the others in this series, which will be in the description of the story. I'll also leave a link for the original story in the description below. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, and as always, stay tuned for one more nightmare.